Hi, my name is Amber, and this is my review of 2018 book-to-movie adaptation. So a ton of adaptations came out so far this year. These are the few that I have watched and also read the books for, and I wanted to kind of do a little bit of a mini review for each of them. First, love Simon. I read Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda a while back and loved every second of it. I thought it was absolutely adorable and sweet and amazing, and you easily feel for these characters and enjoy the story, and I believe I flew through the book so quickly. A little while later, the movie eventually came out and I finally saw it, and I gotta say that I really enjoyed it. As a movie, it's a lot of fun, and I can see why so many people loved this. As an adaptation, I'm a little bit more on the iffy side for it. I think it was really well done as an adaptation, but I feel like there were little bits of changes and little things that you don't quite get from the movie that you easily get from the book. That feeling for these characters and how close they are. Parts of it seemed kind of rushed, which you get from adaptations. That's just how it happens sometimes, but I just felt like this could have been a little bit better when it comes to how these characters interact and how these relationships form. But I loved all the actors that they chose for all of these characters. I thought all of them fit them perfectly, and it was a really sweet, emotional, fantastic movie that really showed what was so amazing about the book in the first place. Next, Ready Player One. I read Ready Player One a couple years back and really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun as a read, and I flew through it pretty quickly for a book that has as much exposition and world building as it does. If you don't know anything about this story, this is a world where a virtual reality known as the Oasis exists. It was created by a man who had this love for past decades, so he threw all of these little nods into video games and comic books and movies and music that he threw into this oasis, and it is very pop culture filled, and I know that was a lot of people's issues with the movie, but I feel like the references in the book are so much different than they are in the movies. I think that's why I enjoyed this so much. So now the movie. As a movie as a whole, it was pretty enjoyable. I didn't hate it. When you're comparing it to the book and you're trying to make it an adaptation, it just feels like it took tiny pieces of it and just kind of went with whatever it wanted to do. I understand why they updated some of the pop culture references, but the point of this book was to feel all of the 80s and 70s nostalgia that's thrown into this story. I also feel like they changed a lot of things for the test themselves that really didn't need to be changed. I really wanted to see those challenges, and I was kind of let down by the way they ended up doing things with more action-based related challenges than what was in the book. I also felt like the characters felt a little off. Didn't necessarily have any issues with the actors that were playing them, it just felt like the relationships felt weird. Some of the side characters that you really love, like H is one of my favorite characters in the book, and that character just kind of felt watered down and kind of just thrown in there for a few laughs every now and then, and that was it. As a movie, I didn't hate it. As an adaptation, I believe it could have done so much better. Next, The Darkest Minds. The Darkest Minds by Alexander Bracken is a book that I honestly was worried I was just never gonna read. I had this book sitting on my shelf for so many years now, and I just never thought I was gonna get around to it, and I was so close to getting rid of the series and never picking it up. The movie was coming out this year, and I decided, give it a chance, read the first book and see what happens. And if you've seen my last vlog, I do talk about my experience reading through the series. I loved this book so much, and I enjoyed every single book in this series so much. This series easily has become one of my favorites, and I'm so glad that I gave it the chance that I did. This is a world where kids start randomly dying, and soon those few kids who survive end up realizing they have abilities. The government then proceeds to take all of these children and put them into camps as a way to split them up and hide them from society or kill the ones they believe are dangerous. I was extremely excited, but I also was definitely trying to hold back my expectations because it is a YA adaptation, and let's be honest, they don't tend to do very well. If I was watching this just as a movie, I wouldn't say it would be fantastic, but it was still enjoyable. But as an adaptation, it definitely lacked a little bit. I definitely love the actors they chose. I think all of these actors looked the part and played the part pretty decently well, especially Chubbs. Chubbs was definitely the shining star in this adaptation. When it came to the other characters, I felt they definitely didn't get them exactly how I imagined them. There were just some minor changes to their characters that felt really big for their personalities. Zoo's character, her entire backstory basically gets cut out, and you really don't get to connect with her in this movie. When it comes to Liam, I really liked the actor they chose for him. I think he looks the part, and I think he sounds the part, and the only real issue I had was some of the small little things that he was doing didn't really feel like something Liam would ever do. Both his and Ruby's relationship felt very typical YA movie. The things that kind of just bothered me personally, and probably isn't that big of a deal, but to me I just felt like, why would you why was the music. I know that's a dumb thing to worry about. In the book, it's so adamant about how they only play music after a certain time period. They only play old songs, and the movie played nothing but pop hits. That's all that they played. The other thing was the eye thing. I know a lot of people have mentioned this in their reviews of this movie. It's never really discussed in any way, so I mean, you don't know if everyone sees the eye change or if it's just for the audience. Strange and really bad CGI, and I also wish they would have fixed the situation they did with the Reds. The Reds attacking felt really cheesy and really cartoonish in a way, and it wasn't great. I have a lot of issues with this adaptation, but overall I still enjoyed it. And the last adaptation I'm going to be talking about today is To All the Boys I Loved Before. Flew through all of them so quickly and loved every single one. This is just a fun contemporary. Our story is about our main character who writes these letters to crushes that she has, where she explains her feelings for them, but then she never sends them out. She puts them into a hat box and keeps them up, and that's a way that she gets over the crushes. One day those letters get out and they find their way into the hands of those boys. She has to deal with all the consequences that come with that afterwards. It's really adorable and really fun, and I enjoyed this book so much, and I love the relationships, both family-wise and the romantic relationships. So that adaptation came out recently, and I was so incredibly excited but nervous to see it. All of the trailers and the behind the scenes that I was seeing for this movie felt like it was going to do it so well, and I was ready. First, the movie as a whole, fantastic. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was sweet and adorable, and it follows everything really well, and you really connect to these characters pretty quickly, and you easily will laugh and feel emotional and enjoy every second of this movie as a whole. As an adaptation, I think it did great. It definitely does have changes, but again, that's just how it is with adaptations, and I honestly didn't mind it. Overall, I still think it was a fantastic adaptation. I think everything felt really adequate to the book. The characters felt like their characters, the story felt like the story, and it was just a lot of fun. Thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and it's definitely one that I could see myself rewatching over and over again. This is probably one of the best adaptations I've seen in a long time. So those are all the adaptations that I want to talk about today. Let me know your favorite book to movie adaptation down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.